Have you noticed that the moment you started growing, certain people around you started changing? Not loudly, not obviously, not in a way you could easily prove, but something shifted. The conversations became heavier, the support became quieter, the compliments became colder. The people who once said they wanted to see you win suddenly became uncomfortable when you actually started winning, and for a while you tried to ignore it. You told yourself, maybe I am overthinking. You told yourself, maybe they're just going through something. You told yourself, maybe I should not be so sensitive. But deep down, something in your spirit knew. Something was off. Every time you shared good news, your energy dropped. Every time you mentioned a dream, they found a reason to make you question it. Every time God opened a door, they reminded you of every reason you might not be ready to walk through it. And here is what you need to understand. Not every attack against your calling comes through open betrayal. Sometimes it comes through familiar voices. Sometimes it comes through people who still call themselves your friends. Sometimes it comes through backhanded compliments, passive-aggressive advice, jealous silence, unnecessary warnings, emotional dependence, and subtle spiritual resistance. That is why God is teaching you to audit your circle. Not because He wants you isolated, not because He wants you suspicious of everyone, not because He wants your heart to become hard, but because your next season requires a different level of discernment. There are people who can love the version of you that is struggling, but resent the version of you that is rising. There are people who can pray for your breakthrough, but feel threatened when the breakthrough actually arrives. There are people who are comfortable with your potential as long as it remains invisible. But the moment God begins to elevate you, expose you, strengthen you, and separate you for something greater, their hidden feelings begin to surface. And that is when the accusations begin. You are acting different. You think you are better than everyone now. You changed. You are too deep. You are too sensitive. You do not come around anymore. You forgot where you came from. But what they call distance, God may call protection. What they call pride, God may call pruning. What they call being difficult, God may call discernment. And what they call you changing, heaven may call you finally becoming who you were always meant to be. This message is for the chosen one who has been feeling guilty for pulling back. This is for the person who has been sensing that certain relationships no longer feel safe but has been afraid to admit it. This is for the one who keeps shrinking in rooms where they were supposed to shine. This is for the one who has been carrying the weight of everybody's emotions, everybody's crisis, everybody's opinion, everybody's insecurity, while trying to obey the voice of God. You are not crazy. You are not imagining it. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. And when God begins to make you clear, He also begins to show you what has been clouding your spirit. They called you distant because you stopped giving unlimited access. One of the first signs that God is changing your season is that your tolerance begins to shift. Things you used to laugh off start bothering your spirit. Comments you used to excuse begin to sound different. Conversations that once felt normal now feel draining. Places you used to run to for comfort now feel spiritually crowded. And people who once had unlimited access to you suddenly feel confused when you start setting boundaries. That is when they say you are acting different. But listen carefully, sometimes you are not acting different. You are finally acting aligned. You are finally responding to what your spirit has been trying to tell you for years. You are finally realizing that not everybody who knows your history deserves access to your destiny. This is where many chosen ones get misunderstood. Because people are used to the old version of you. They are used to the version that over-explained. The version that apologized for having boundaries. The version that gave people chance after chance, even when your peace was the price. The version that showed up for everybody, even when nobody checked on you. The version that kept the relationship alive by betraying your own discernment. So when you stop doing that, they do not call it growth. They call it attitude. They call it pride. They call it distance. They say, you changed. And maybe you did. But change is not always rebellion. Sometimes change is obedience. Sometimes change is what happens when God finally gets your attention. Sometimes change is the result of spiritual maturity. You are not supposed to remain available to every voice that once had access to your weakness. You are not supposed to keep opening your heart to people who treat your calling like a threat. You are not supposed to keep explaining your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding your light. There is a kind of relationship that only survives when you stay small. It works as long as you do not grow too much. It works as long as you do not heal too deeply. It works as long as you do not become too confident. It works as long as you do not start saying no, but the moment you begin to rise, the hidden structure of that relationship is revealed. You discover that some people did not love your soul. They loved your accessibility. They loved your emotional labor. They loved your availability. They loved being able to call you anytime, drain you anytime, guilt you anytime, question you anytime, and still expect you to show up with a smile. But God is not calling you into a season of unlimited access. He is calling you into a season of sacred stewardship. And one of the first things you must steward is your inner circle, because your circle affects your clarity. Your circle affects your courage. Your circle affects your obedience. Your circle affects your confidence. Your circle affects how quickly you respond when God speaks. If every time God gives you a vision you run to someone who makes you doubt it, then that person is not just a friend. That person has become a spiritual delay. If every time you feel joy you share it with someone who quietly minimizes it, then that relationship is training you to hide your light. If every time you take a step forward someone pulls you into their crisis, their cynicism, their insecurity, or their fear, then you must ask yourself whether this connection is multiplying your spirit or subtracting from it. This is not about judging people. This is about discerning patterns. There is a difference. Judgment says, I am better than you. Discernment says, I see what this connection is producing in me. Judgment condemns. Discernment protects. Judgment comes from pride. Discernment comes from wisdom. And in this season, God is not asking you to hate people. He is asking you to see clearly, because you cannot protect what you refuse to examine. And you cannot steward a calling while pretending every relationship is harmless. Some people are not evil, but they are not assigned to your next season. Some people are not enemies, but they are not safe for your vulnerability. Some people may love you in their own limited way, but they do not have the capacity to handle the weight of what God is doing in you. That is why you feel the tension. That is why your spirit gets heavy around them. That is why you feel smaller after certain conversations. That is why you leave some interactions feeling confused, guilty, drained, or strangely discouraged. Your body may be reacting before your mind has language. Your spirit may be discerning before your mouth can explain. And that does not make you dramatic. It makes you awake. God saw what you could not explain. One of the hardest parts about subtle spiritual sabotage is that it is difficult to prove. If someone openly betrays you, people understand. If someone lies about you, people understand. If someone attacks you publicly, people understand. But what do you do when the damage is quiet? What do you do when someone never directly says they are against you, but every interaction leaves you weaker? What do you do when their tone changes only when you speak about your growth? What do you do when they celebrate everyone else loudly, but respond to your progress with silence? What do you do when their advice always sounds like a warning against becoming too confident? What do you do when their prayers feel less like covering and more like control? What do you do when they say, I'm just concerned, but their concern always arrives right when you are about to obey God? This is why many chosen ones suffer in silence. Because you cannot always explain spiritual friction to people who only understand obvious conflict. You cannot always prove envy when it wears the mask of friendship. You cannot always prove resistance when it comes wrapped in polite words. You cannot always prove sabotage when it is subtle, repeated, emotional, and spiritual. But God saw it. God saw the way your joy dropped when you shared your good news. God saw the way they looked at you when someone else praised you. God saw the little comments that made you question your confidence. God saw the jokes that had bitterness hidden inside them. God saw the way they used your past to keep you from believing in your future. God saw the way they only felt comfortable when you were struggling. God saw the way your light made them uncomfortable. And God also saw how many times you ignored your own discernment because you did not want to seem unloving. You kept giving people the benefit of the doubt. You kept saying, maybe they did not mean it that way. You kept covering what God was trying to uncover. You kept protecting relationships that were no longer protecting your spirit. And God, in His mercy, began to let the pattern become clearer, not to embarrass them, not to make you bitter, not to make you superior, but to make you wise. Sometimes God allows people to reveal themselves slowly because if He showed you everything at once, you would not be ready to release them. So He lets you notice the pattern. One conversation at a time, one reaction at a time, one strange feeling at a time, one moment of silence at a time, one backhanded compliment at a time, until finally you stop asking, am I imagining this? And you start asking, Lord, what are you showing me? That question changes everything. Because the moment you stop gaslighting your own discernment, you become available for divine clarity. And clarity often begins with a painful truth. Some people in your circle are not fighting your destiny openly. They are resisting it quietly. They are not saying, do not become who God called you to be. They are saying, are you sure? They are saying, do not get too excited. They are saying, remember where you came from. They are saying, you have changed. I just do not want you to get hurt. But underneath the words, there is a spirit of limitation. A spirit that wants you cautious when God told you to be courageous. A spirit that wants you silent when God told you to speak. A spirit that wants you small when God is expanding your territory. A spirit that wants you loyal to the past when God is calling you into the future. And this is why you must be careful. Because the enemy does not always need to destroy your calling. Sometimes he only needs to surround you with people who constantly make you doubt it. He does not always need to stop you. Sometimes he only needs to slow you down. He does not always need to make you quit. Sometimes he only needs to make you second guess every step. That is why subtle sabotage is dangerous. It does not always look like hatred. Sometimes it looks like concern. Sometimes it looks like humor. Sometimes it looks like tradition. Sometimes it looks like loyalty. Sometimes it looks like I have known you for years. But history does not equal assignment. Familiarity does not equal alignment. And shared memories do not always mean shared destiny. God may be showing you that the people who were around you in your survival season cannot always walk with you into your stewardship season. Because the next level requires people who can handle your healing, people who can handle your confidence, people who can handle your obedience, people who can handle your visibility, people who can handle your increase without making it about their insecurity. And if they cannot handle your growth, they will try to reinterpret it as pride. That is why they call you arrogant when you are simply becoming secure. They call you distant when you are simply becoming focused. They call you sensitive when you are simply becoming discerning. They call you different when you are simply becoming delivered. But heaven has another name for it: growth. Discernment is not division. Let us bring this into the light of Scripture. Because many chosen ones feel guilty for setting boundaries because they have been taught that love means unlimited access. They think being godly means being available to everyone. They think forgiveness means returning to the same unsafe place. They think humility means pretending not to notice patterns. They think peacekeeping means allowing people to keep violating their spirit. But biblical love is not the absence of boundaries. Jesus loved deeply, but he did not give everyone the same level of access. There were crowds, there were followers, there were disciples, there were the 12, and then there were the few who were invited into the most intimate moments. That alone should teach you something. Not everyone deserves the same proximity. Not everyone can handle the same revelation. Not everyone who listens to you is assigned to walk with you closely. Even Jesus withdrew. Even Jesus walked away from certain conversations. Even Jesus did not entrust himself to everyone because he knew what was in people. So why do you think spiritual maturity means ignoring what God is showing you? Discernment is not division. Discernment is the ability to recognize what spirit is operating behind a pattern. Discernment is the ability to see beyond words. Discernment is the ability to notice fruit. Discernment is the ability to understand that not every open door is from God, and not every close relationship is safe. There is a kind of false peace that keeps chosen ones trapped. It says, do not make people uncomfortable. It says, do not confront anything. It says, just keep the relationship. It says, do not change the dynamic. It says, you are being too serious. But sometimes the peace you are trying to preserve is the very thing that is costing you your purpose. Because real peace is not the absence of tension. Real peace is alignment with God. And sometimes alignment with God creates tension with people who benefited from your misalignment. When God begins to prune your circle, it may feel painful, but pruning is not punishment. Pruning is preparation. A branch gets pruned not because it is worthless, but because it is fruitful. The cutting is not rejection. The cutting is investment. God removes what drains strength so that what remains can produce more. That is what He is doing in you. He is cutting off the unnecessary weight. He is removing emotional entanglements. He is exposing false loyalty. He is separating you from voices that kept you confused. He is showing you that you cannot carry everybody into a season they were never assigned to enter. And that can hurt. Because some of these people were not strangers. They were long-term friends. They were people you shared memories with, people you laughed with, people who knew your old stories, people who were present in past seasons. But presence in your past does not automatically mean permission in your future. This is where chosen ones must become mature. You cannot build your future only around who has been with you the longest. You must build it around who is aligned with what God is doing now. There are people who are necessary for one chapter but dangerous in the next, not because they are terrible people, but because they are attached to a version of you that God is no longer asking you to be. They know how to talk to the wounded version of you. They know how to relate to the uncertain version of you. They know how to comfort the struggling version of you, but they do not know how to honor the healed version of you. They do not know how to celebrate the bold version of you. They do not know how to stand beside the chosen version of you without competing, comparing, or quietly resenting. And that is why the relationship begins to feel strained. Because God is changing your identity, but they are still committed to your old one. They keep speaking to who you were. God keeps calling you into who you are becoming. And eventually, you must choose which voice you will honor. The voice of familiarity or the voice of destiny, the voice of guilt or the voice of God, the voice of old access or the voice of new assignment. This is why auditing your circle is biblical. You are not trying to create drama. You are trying to protect alignment. You are not trying to prove you are better. You are trying to obey what God is revealing. You are not rejecting people out of pride. You are releasing patterns that no longer belong in your spirit. And when you understand that, guilt begins to lose its power, because you realize that boundaries are not hatred. Boundaries are stewardship. Boundaries say, I love you, but I cannot let this dynamic keep draining what God is trying to build in me. Boundaries say, I forgive you, but I am no longer giving you the same access. Boundaries say, I honor what we shared, but I must obey where God is leading. Boundaries say, I can pray for you without placing you back in the center of my life. That is not cruelty, that is wisdom. You are not antisocial, you are set apart. One of the most painful accusations chosen ones face is this: you do not want to be around people anymore. But that is not the full truth. You do want connection, you do want community, you do want friendship. You do want people you can laugh with, pray with, build with, and trust. You are not against relationships. You are against relationships that require you to abandon your spirit in order to keep them. You are not antisocial. You are set apart. There is a difference. Being antisocial is avoidance rooted in fear. Being set apart is separation rooted in purpose. Being antisocial says, I do not need anyone. Being set apart says, I need the right people. Being antisocial closes the heart. Being set apart guards the heart, and your heart matters. Your calling flows through it. Your creativity flows through it. Your obedience flows through it. Your courage flows through it. Your compassion flows through it. So you cannot keep giving your heart to people who mishandle it and then wonder why you feel spiritually exhausted. The truth is, your circle is either shaping you or shaking you. It is either helping you hear God more clearly or making you question what He already said. It is either strengthening your identity or pulling you back into insecurity. It is either feeding your faith or feeding your fear. And the next season of your life will require you to categorize your circle with honesty. There are people who multiply you. These are the people who leave you clearer, stronger, wiser, and more anchored in God. They do not flatter you, but they strengthen you. They can celebrate your growth without making it about themselves. They can correct you without humiliating you. They can pray for you without controlling you. They can hear your vision without projecting their fear onto it. They are not intimidated by your light because they are not disconnected from their own. Then there are people who add to you. They may not be intimate destiny partners, but they are not harmful. They are healthy acquaintances. They are kind, respectful, and peaceful. They may not carry the weight of your deepest assignment, but they do not drain you. They belong in your life, but not necessarily in your inner chamber. And then there are people who subtract from you. These are the ones you must discern carefully. They may not look dangerous, they may not openly oppose you, but after being around them, you feel smaller, you feel tired, you feel guilty, you feel confused, you feel less excited about what God told you. You begin to question things that were clear before the conversation. You feel responsible for managing their emotions. You feel like your joy is too much for them. You feel like your growth must be hidden to keep the relationship peaceful. That is subtraction. And if you keep giving subtractors inner circle access, eventually you will start living beneath your assignment just to maintain emotional comfort. That is too expensive. Your calling is too costly for casual access. Your future is too important for careless proximity. Your peace is too sacred to be negotiated by people who benefit from your confusion. This is why God begins to set you apart. Not because you are better than others, but because you are responsible for what He placed inside you. Set apart does not mean superior. Set apart means assigned. Set apart means consecrated. Set apart means there is something on your life that requires careful handling, and some people cannot handle it. They will mishandle your vulnerability. They will mishandle your dreams. They will mishandle your confidence. They will mishandle your healing. They will mishandle your new season. And if you continue to hand sacred things to people who do not have the capacity to honor them, you will keep bleeding in places where you were supposed to be growing. This is why Jesus warned about giving holy things to those who cannot value them. Not every person can receive what God is developing inside you. Not every person should hear your next move. Not every person should know what you are praying about. Not every person should have access to the early stages of your assignment. Some visions must be protected while they are still forming. Some doors must be walked through quietly. Some breakthroughs must be stewarded privately before they are announced publicly, because immature exposure can invite unnecessary warfare. And sometimes the warfare does not come because you did something wrong. It comes because you told the wrong people too soon. You shared the dream with someone who was still grieving their own delay. You shared the promotion with someone who secretly felt left behind. You shared the relationship with someone who was bitter from disappointment. You shared the business idea with someone who could only see through fear. You shared the calling with someone who loved you better when you needed them more. And now you wonder why your spirit feels attacked. Chosen one, this is not the season to share everything with everyone. This is the season to ask God, who has earned access to this part of me? That question is not pride, it is wisdom. Because access is not automatic. Access is stewardship. And the more God increases the weight of your assignment, the more intentional you must become with your proximity. Healing from false loyalty. Now let us talk about the wound underneath this. Because for many chosen ones, the problem is not that you do not see the pattern. The problem is that you feel guilty for responding to it. You know certain people drain you. You know certain conversations disturb your peace. You know certain friendships are built on an old version of you. You know certain people only support you when you are struggling. You know certain connections are no longer aligned. But you stay because of guilt. You stay because of history. You stay because they were there during a hard time. You stay because you do not want to hurt them. You stay because you are afraid people will say you changed. You stay because you confuse loyalty with access. But hear this clearly. You can honor what someone meant in one season without giving them authority in every season. You can be grateful for the past without being bound to repeat it. You can love someone and still recognize that the relationship needs a new boundary. You can forgive someone and still stop giving them the same level of access. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. Forgiveness releases the debt. Access determines proximity. You can forgive from a distance. You can pray from a distance. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can love without re-entering a dynamic that God delivered you from. This is where many chosen ones need healing, because you have been trained to prove your love by enduring discomfort. You have been trained to keep showing up even when your spirit is tired. You have been trained to carry people who refuse to take responsibility for their own growth. You have been trained to be the strong one, the understanding one, the available one, the forgiving one, the one who always makes room. But God is healing you from false loyalty. False loyalty says, because we have history, you owe me unlimited access. False loyalty says, if you set a boundary, you are betraying me. False loyalty says, if you grow beyond this dynamic, you are abandoning me. False loyalty says, you must keep suffering quietly so I can stay comfortable. But divine loyalty is different. Divine loyalty is first loyalty to God, loyalty to truth, loyalty to purpose, loyalty to the health of your spirit, loyalty to the assignment placed on your life. And sometimes loyalty to God will require you to disappoint people. That does not mean you are cruel. It means you are no longer available to be controlled by guilt. The pain is real. Because some people you must distance yourself from are people you genuinely love. This is not always about enemies. Sometimes it is about people who cannot go where God is taking you. Sometimes it is about friends who have become emotional weights. Sometimes it is about people who are not intentionally trying to harm you, but their insecurity keeps leaking into your destiny. Sometimes it is about people who love you, but not freely. They love you with conditions. They love you when you are accessible. They love you when you are agreeable. They love you when your success does not challenge their self-image. They love you when you remain familiar. But the moment God starts making you unfamiliar, their love becomes strained. That is a painful revelation, because you start grieving not only the relationship, but the illusion of what you thought the relationship was. You grieve the fact that you cannot share everything anymore. You grieve the fact that their reaction changed. You grieve the fact that the person you hoped would celebrate, you could not. You grieve the fact that growth exposed a gap you did not want to see, and God meets you in that grief. He does not shame you for hurting. He does not tell you to pretend. It does not matter. He does not ask you to become cold. He simply teaches you how to release without hatred, because release is not always loud. Sometimes release is quiet. Sometimes release is answering less. Sometimes release is no longer explaining your decisions. Sometimes release is not sharing the details. Sometimes release is muting the voice that keeps disturbing your peace. Sometimes release is letting the relationship become what it actually is, instead of forcing it to remain what it used to be. And there is healing in that honesty. There is healing when you stop forcing closeness where God is creating distance. There is healing when you stop calling dysfunction loyalty. There is healing when you stop betraying your future to maintain an old emotional contract. There is healing when you finally admit, I love them, but I cannot keep shrinking for them. That sentence may be the beginning of your freedom, because some of you have been shrinking for years, shrinking your dreams, shrinking your joy, shrinking your confidence, shrinking your voice, shrinking your testimony, shrinking your standards, shrinking your obedience, all because you did not want the people around you to feel uncomfortable. But God did not place light inside you so you could hide it for the sake of insecure company. He did not call you to become less so others could feel more. He did not heal you so you could keep acting broken to preserve old bonds. He did not deliver you so you could keep reporting back to people who are invested in your captivity. Chosen one, you are allowed to outgrow the room. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to mature. You are allowed to become more focused. You are allowed to become more private. You are allowed to protect what God is doing. You are allowed to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to seeing your boundary as betrayal. And when you do, some will accuse you. Let them. Some will misunderstand you. Let them. Some will say you changed. Let them. Because your assignment is not to manage every interpretation of your obedience. Your assignment is to obey. Closing of part 1, God was not making you lonely, He was making you clean. So now, look back. Look back at the relationships that became heavy right when your spirit started waking up. Look back at the people who could handle your pain but not your power. Look back at the ones who were present when you were broken, but uncomfortable when you became bold. Look back at the conversations that left you doubting what God had already confirmed. Look back at the rooms where you felt you had to hide your joy. Look back at the friendships where your growth was treated like a threat. God was showing you something, not to make you hate them, not to make you judge them, not to make you walk around suspicious of everyone, but to teach you discernment. He was showing you that every connection has fruit. Some fruit brings peace, some fruit brings confusion, some fruit brings courage, some fruit brings fear, some fruit brings clarity, some fruit brings spiritual exhaustion. And by their fruit you must learn. You are not responsible for forcing every relationship to continue. You are responsible for stewarding what God has placed inside you. And sometimes stewardship looks like silence. Sometimes stewardship looks like distance. Sometimes stewardship looks like privacy. Sometimes stewardship looks like saying no. Sometimes stewardship looks like letting people think what they want while you keep walking with God. This is the part where your healing begins. Because you finally realize that you were not wrong for feeling drained. You were not wrong for needing space. You were not wrong for noticing the shift. You were not wrong for protecting your peace. You were not wrong for outgrowing the version of yourself that tolerated everything. God was not making you lonely, He was making you clean. He was clearing the room. He was clearing the noise. He was clearing the false attachments. He was clearing the emotional clutter. He was clearing the voices that made you question your own becoming. Because the next level of your life cannot be built on the approval of people who benefit from your smallness. The next level requires focus. The next level requires clarity. The next level requires courage. The next level requires a purified circle. And before God sends the right people, He often reveals the wrong patterns. So do not despise the separation. Do not curse the quiet. Do not run back to old access because loneliness feels unfamiliar. This silence has purpose. This pruning has purpose. This distance has purpose. God is not just removing people from your life. He's removing the version of you that needed their permission to grow. And in part 2, we will go deeper into why God allowed the wilderness, how to avoid becoming bitter, the exact signs of subtle spiritual sabotage, and how to build the inner sanctum that can carry the weight of your calling. But for now, receive this. You are not cold. You are not arrogant. You are not too sensitive. You are not acting strange. You are waking up. And when a chosen one wakes up, everything that was quietly draining them begins to lose access. Why God allowed the wilderness, revealed the signs, and prepared your inner sanctum. And when a chosen one wakes up, everything that was quietly draining them begins to lose access. That is where we ended. But now we must go deeper. Because after God exposes the wrong patterns, there is often a quiet season that follows. A season where the phone does not ring as much. A season where certain conversations stop happening. A season where you no longer feel pulled into every crisis, every argument, every emotional obligation, every familiar cycle. And at first it may feel peaceful, then it may feel strange, then it may feel lonely. Because even unhealthy access can become familiar. Even draining relationships can feel normal when you have lived inside them long enough. Even emotional chaos can feel like connection when you have not yet learned the sound of peace. So when God begins to clear the room, you may start questioning the very freedom you prayed for. You may ask, Lord, why does obedience feel so lonely? You may ask, why did you show me the truth if it would hurt this much? You may ask, why did you remove so many voices at once? You may ask, why does protecting my peace feel like losing people? And this is where many chosen ones misunderstand the wilderness. The wilderness is not always a punishment. Sometimes the wilderness is the place where God removes every voice that was louder than His. Sometimes the wilderness is where your nervous system learns peace after years of emotional noise. Sometimes the wilderness is where your discernment becomes stronger because you are no longer surrounded by people who keep talking you out of what God already revealed. Sometimes the wilderness is where you stop needing constant confirmation from people who were never qualified to validate your calling. God did not bring you into silence to abandon you. He brought you into silence to recalibrate you. He brought you into silence to detox you from false dependence. He brought you into silence so you could finally hear the difference between the voice of fear, the voice of guilt, the voice of familiarity, and the voice of God. Because before your circle can be rebuilt, your inner world must be restored. Before destiny helpers arrive, you must stop entertaining destiny drainers. Before God sends aligned people, He must heal the part of you that kept mistaking attachment for assignment. This is where the second half of your journey begins. Not just separation, but sanctification, not just distance, but wisdom, not just exposure, but preparation, not just losing people, but becoming strong enough to receive the right ones. The wilderness explains why God let you feel alone. Let us tell the truth. The loneliness after separation can hurt. Even when you know the distance was necessary, it can still hurt. Even when you know certain people were draining you, you may still miss the familiar rhythm. You may miss the old conversations. You may miss having someone to call. You may miss the version of the relationship you hoped it could become. You may miss the illusion, and that is normal. Healing does not mean you feel nothing. Discernment does not mean you never grieve. Spiritual maturity does not mean separation is painless. Sometimes obedience hurts because your heart is involved. Sometimes God asks you to release what your emotions are still attached to. Sometimes your spirit knows the truth before your feelings are ready to accept it. That is why the wilderness exists. The wilderness is the space between what God removed and what God is preparing. It is the space where old access has ended, but new alignment has not fully arrived. It is the place where you are no longer who you used to be, but you are still learning how to live as who you are becoming. And in that space, God begins to teach you. He teaches you that silence is not rejection. He teaches you that fewer people does not mean less covering. He teaches you that being alone with Him is safer than being surrounded by people who keep pulling you away from yourself. He teaches you that your value does not decrease because your circle got smaller. He teaches you that your peace is not emptiness, it is order. Many chosen ones are so used to emotional noise that peace feels like abandonment at first. When nobody is pulling on you, you feel unnecessary. When nobody is demanding your energy, you feel disconnected. When nobody is creating drama, you wonder if life has become too quiet. But that quiet is not death, it is detox. God is detoxing you from emotional overfunctioning. He is detoxing you from being everybody's rescuer. He is detoxing you from needing to be needed. He is detoxing you from relationships where your role was to absorb, fix, comfort, explain, and carry. He is detoxing you from the false identity that said, if I am not available to everyone, I am not loving. No, you can love people without being consumed by them. You can care without carrying what God never assigned to you. You can be compassionate without becoming emotionally enslaved. You can pray without participating in every cycle. The wilderness teaches you this. It teaches you that your first ministry is obedience to God. It teaches you that you are not called to be accessible at the cost of alignment. It teaches you that not every cry requires your immediate response. It teaches you that not every emergency is your assignment. It teaches you that some people will keep having crises as long as your energy remains available to fund them. And this is especially important for chosen ones because many of you have been trained through pain to become hyper-responsible. You can sense moods quickly, you can feel shifts in energy, you can detect tension in a room. You can tell when someone is upset before they say a word. And because of that, you learn to adjust yourself to keep peace. You learn to shrink, you learn to soften your truth, you learn to manage other people's reactions. You learn to become what the room needed. But God is now asking you to stop abandoning yourself to regulate everybody else. The wilderness is where you recover your own voice. The wilderness is where you stop performing for acceptance. The wilderness is where you learn that your calling does not need a crowd to be real. The wilderness is where God asks, can you still obey me when nobody claps? Can you still believe when nobody understands? Can you still build when nobody celebrates? Can you still walk when nobody walks with you? Can you still trust the vision when you cannot share it with the people you used to tell everything? This is not isolation, this is incubation. There is a difference. Isolation makes you weaker. Incubation makes you stronger. Isolation disconnects you from God. Incubation deepens your dependence on Him. Isolation is driven by fear. Incubation is guided by purpose. And in this incubation, God is developing spiritual authority in you. Because the next level of your calling cannot be carried by the version of you that needed constant reassurance. It cannot be carried by the version of you that collapsed every time someone misunderstood you. It cannot be carried by the version of you that shared too much too soon. It cannot be carried by the version of you that confused access with love. God is strengthening you in the quiet. He is teaching you to hold vision without leaking it. He is teaching you to be kind without being available for manipulation. He is teaching you to love without losing yourself. He is teaching you to forgive without returning to unsafe dynamics. He is teaching you to walk through loneliness without running back to what drained you, because some doors close not to punish you, but to protect the purity of what God is building. Do not run back because the wilderness feels unfamiliar. Do not return to old circles just because new alignment has not arrived yet. Do not mistake quiet for abandonment. The same God who removed the wrong voices is preparing the right ones. But first, He is making sure you no longer choose people from the wound. Do not turn discernment into bitterness. Now, this part is important, because when God reveals subtle sabotage, the heart can go in two directions. It can become wise, or it can become bitter. It can become discerning, or it can become suspicious of everyone. It can become guarded in a healthy way, or it can become closed, hard, and defensive. And that is not what God wants for you. God does not expose people to make you hateful. He exposes patterns to make you free. He does not reveal envy so you can live in pride. He reveals it so you can stop submitting your destiny to the approval of insecure people. He does not show you spiritual sabotage so you can declare everyone an enemy. He shows it so you can recognize what is not aligned and move with wisdom. So be careful. Do not turn discernment into paranoia. Do not call everyone jealous just because they disagree with you. Do not call every correction an attack. Do not call every boundary from someone else rejection. Do not use spiritual language to avoid accountability. Do not say, God told me to cut them off, when what you really mean is, I do not want to have a mature conversation. That is not discernment. That is avoidance dressed in religious language. A chosen one must be honest. Sometimes people are sabotaging you, but sometimes people are correcting you. Sometimes people are jealous. But sometimes people are concerned because they see a blind spot. Sometimes people are not aligned. But sometimes you are the one who needs to grow in communication, humility, patience, and emotional maturity. Discernment does not make you above correction. Discernment makes you better at recognizing the source and spirit behind correction. There are people who correct you because they love your future. And there are people who criticize you because your future intimidates them. You must learn the difference. Correction that comes from love may sting, but it brings clarity. Sabotage that comes from envy may sound sweet, but it brings confusion. Correction points you toward God. Sabotage pulls you back into fear. Correction strengthens your character. Sabotage weakens your confidence. Correction may challenge your behavior. Sabotage attacks your identity. Correction says, I believe you can grow. Sabotage says, who do you think you are? You need discernment to tell the difference, and you need humility to receive the right correction when God sends it. Because if you become bitter, you may accidentally reject the very people God sent to sharpen you. If you become paranoid, you may start seeing enemies where God sent helpers. If you become proud, you may isolate yourself from wisdom. If you become hard, you may protect yourself from pain, but also block yourself from love. That is not healing. That is another form of bondage. God wants your heart guarded, not hardened. There is a difference. A guarded heart has gates. A hardened heart has walls. A guarded heart can still love. A hardened heart only defends. A guarded heart listens to God. A hardened heart listens to fear. A guarded heart knows when to open and when to close. A hardened heart shuts everyone out and calls it wisdom. Chosen one, do not let what happened to you steal your tenderness. Do not let envy around you make you arrogant. Do not let betrayal make you cruel. Do not let disappointment make you cynical. Do not let the exposure of false friends turn you into a person who cannot recognize true ones. You can release people without cursing them. You can distance yourself without publicly humiliating them. You can set boundaries without becoming dramatic. You can see the pattern without needing revenge. You can stop giving access without explaining every detail. Some exits must be graceful. Some separations must be quiet. Some boundaries must be practiced more than announced. Because not everyone deserves a speech. Not every relationship needs a final confrontation. Not every pattern requires a public declaration. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop feeding the dynamic. Stop oversharing. Stop chasing their approval. Stop explaining what God already confirmed. Stop letting their silence control your joy. Stop returning to rooms where your spirit is consistently made small. This is not revenge. This is alignment. But while you do it, keep your heart clean. Pray for them. Release them. Bless them from a distance. Ask God to heal whatever in them could not celebrate what He was doing in you. And ask God to heal whatever in you kept needing their celebration before you could move forward. That is true freedom, not just being free from them, but being free from the need to prove anything to them. Because sometimes the deepest attachment is not to the person. It is to the desire to be understood by the person. You keep wanting them to see you correctly. You keep wanting them to admit what they did. You keep wanting them to acknowledge your growth. You keep wanting them to validate your boundary. But what if they never do? Can you still obey God? Can you still walk forward? Can you still be free? You must, because your calling is too important to be delayed by the hope that everyone who misunderstood you will eventually explain themselves. Some people will never admit they envied you. Some people will never admit they drained you. Some people will never admit they made you feel small. Some people will rewrite the story and make you the villain. Let them. You are not called to win every narrative. You are called to protect your obedience. Signs. Your circle is quietly sabotaging you. Now let us identify the signs. Because subtle sabotage thrives in confusion. It survives when you keep calling patterns nothing. It survives when you keep saying, maybe I'm just overthinking. It survives when you keep giving spiritual access to people who consistently leave you weaker. So here are signs that a person in your circle may be quietly sabotaging your growth. First, they go silent when you win. They can talk for hours when you are struggling. They can comfort you when you are crying. They can show up when your life feels uncertain. But the moment you have good news, something changes. Their face tightens, their response becomes short, their energy goes flat. They say, "Oh, that is nice," and quickly change the subject. They do not ask questions, they do not celebrate. They do not rejoice, they just tolerate the news. Pay attention to who can handle your joy. Some people are only comfortable being close to you when they feel above you, needed by you, or equal to your struggle. Second, they use backhanded compliments. They say things like, "Wow, I did not think you'd actually make it," or "You are lucky things worked out for you," or "You are getting really confident now," or "I hope you do not forget us when you become important." It sounds playful, but something in it stings. That sting is information, because sometimes resentment travels through humor, sometimes envy hides inside sarcasm, sometimes people say what they really feel and then cover it with, "I was just joking." But your spirit knows when a joke is carrying poison. Third, they plant doubt right after God gives you clarity. You tell them you feel led to start something. They immediately list every reason it may fail. You tell them a door opened. They immediately warn you not to get excited. You tell them you are healing. They remind you of who you used to be. You tell them you are moving forward. They bring up every possible obstacle. Now, wisdom is not wrong. Counsel is not wrong. But there is a difference between wise counsel and fear projection. Wise counsel helps you prepare. Fear projection makes you shrink. Wise counsel gives strategy. Fear projection gives anxiety. Wise counsel respects your faith. Fear projection mocks it. Fourth, they use spiritual language to control you. This one is subtle. They may say, "I am praying that God humbles you." Or, "I just hope you do not let pride take over." Or, "God told me to warn you, but the warning always seems to attack your confidence." A passive-aggressive prayer is still aggression. A spiritual-sounding comment can still be manipulation. Not every person who uses God's name is speaking from God's heart. Test the fruit. Does their prayer make you more surrendered to God or more afraid of becoming who He called you to be? Does their warning produce conviction or confusion? Does their counsel draw you closer to peace or deeper into self-doubt? God's voice may correct you, but it will not reduce you into spiritual paralysis. Fifth, they drain you with constant crisis. Every time you are focused, they need you. Every time you are about to build, they collapse. Every time you start gaining momentum, they pull you into their emergency. At first, you think you are being loving. But eventually, you notice a pattern. Their crisis always requires your energy. Their chaos always interrupts your obedience. Their emotional instability always becomes your responsibility. This is the energy vampire dynamic. It is not always intentional. Sometimes people drain you because they have never learned to go to God, regulate themselves, or take responsibility for their own healing. But unintentional draining can still be destructive. You can love them without letting their chaos become the center of your life. Sixth, they make you feel guilty for growing. They say, "You do not have time for me anymore." They say, "You changed." They say, "I guess you are too busy now." They make your focus feel like betrayal. They make your boundaries feel selfish. They make your growth feel like abandonment. But listen, people who truly love your future will not punish you for obeying God. They may miss your availability, but they will honor your assignment. They may need adjustment, but they will not manipulate you with guilt. Seventh, they only support the version of you they can understand. When you are predictable, they are comfortable. When you are insecure, they know how to relate. When you are struggling, they feel useful. But when you become bold, healed, clear, or focused, they do not know where to place you. So they try to pull you back into the identity they recognize. They remind you of your past. They question your motives. They make you feel like growth is betrayal. But you are not obligated to remain recognizable to people who are committed to your old wounds. Eighth, they monitor you online but do not support you. This is the digital side of social circles. Some people will watch every story, every post, every move, every announcement, every sign of progress, but they will never encourage, never celebrate, never engage sincerely, never speak life. They just observe. And sometimes their silent monitoring carries an energy you can feel. This is why muting, unfollowing, restricting, or creating digital distance can be a spiritual boundary. You do not owe everyone a front row seat to your becoming. Your online space is still a space. Your digital access is still access. And if someone's silent envy makes you overthink what you post, shrink your joy, hide your wins, or censor your testimony, you may need to remove their access to your window. Ninth, Your body reacts before your mind can explain. You feel tension in your chest. Your energy drops. Your stomach tightens. You feel tired after speaking with them. You feel anxious before meeting them. You feel spiritually foggy after the interaction. Now, not every physical reaction means someone is bad. But your body can carry wisdom. Your nervous system may remember patterns your mind keeps excusing. Pay attention. Ask God for clarity. Do not worship your feelings, but do not ignore them either. Sometimes your body is telling you this place is no longer safe for your spirit. 10th, they make you feel like you must hide your light to keep peace. This is one of the clearest signs. If you have to downplay every blessing, soften every testimony, minimize every accomplishment, and hide every sign of growth so someone else will not feel uncomfortable, that relationship is not safe for your calling. You were not created to live edited. You were not called to dim your light to manage someone else's insecurity. You can be humble without being hidden. You can be sensitive without being small. You can be kind without pretending God has not been good to you. And anyone who requires your smallness as the price of closeness is not aligned with your destiny. Build the inner sanctum for your calling. After the audit comes the rebuilding. God does not only remove, He also restores. He does not only reveal what drains you, He teaches you how to recognize what strengthens you. He does not only clear the room, He prepares an inner sanctum, a sacred circle, a high-frequency environment, a group of people, even if small, who can carry the weight of your calling with maturity. And you must understand this. Your next circle may not look like your old circle. It may be smaller, it may be quieter, it may be less convenient, it may not be based on childhood history, shared trauma, proximity, or long-term familiarity. It may be based on alignment, spiritual alignment, emotional maturity, mutual honor, purpose, truth, peace. The people assigned to your next season may not need constant access to feel connected to you. They will not punish you for having boundaries. They will not compete with your light. They will not secretly need you to fail so they can feel secure. They will not turn your vulnerability into gossip. They will not turn your growth into a personal insult. They will not use spiritual language to control your decisions. They will not require you to shrink so they can feel comfortable. These are destiny helpers, and destiny helpers are different from familiar companions. A familiar companion knows your history. A destiny helper recognizes your assignment. A familiar companion may love who you have been. A destiny helper has grace for who you are becoming. A familiar companion may be attached to shared memories. A destiny helper is aligned with divine movement. A familiar companion may need access to feel important. A destiny helper knows how to honor boundaries and still remain faithful. You need people who can pray for you without possessing you, people who can correct you without crushing you, people who can celebrate you without comparing, people who can challenge you without competing, people who can sit with your process without spreading your private battles, people who can hold your vision with clean hands, people who can handle your elevation because they are secure in their own assignment. That is the inner sanctum. Not a crowd, not a fan base, not people who flatter you, not people who only agree with everything you say, but people who are spiritually healthy enough to help you obey God. And here is the key. You must become the kind of person you are asking God to send. If you want aligned people, become aligned. If you want trustworthy people, become trustworthy. If you want mature people, become mature. If you want people who can celebrate you, learn to celebrate others without comparison. If you want people who can correct you with love, learn to receive correction with humility. If you want people who respect boundaries, respect theirs too. Because your next circle is not only about who God brings, it is also about who you become. Many chosen ones want destiny helpers, but they still carry survival season habits. They overshare too quickly. They test people through silence. They expect others to read their pain. They confuse intensity with intimacy. They bond through wounds instead of wisdom. They open sacred places before trust has been built. But God is teaching you a healthier way. Build slowly. Watch fruit. Let time reveal character. Do not confuse chemistry with alignment. Do not confuse attention with assignment. Do not confuse someone understanding your pain with someone being called to your purpose. Let people earn proximity through consistency, humility, respect, and fruit. Your inner circle should not be easy to enter, not because you are proud, but because what God placed inside you is sacred, and sacred things require stewardship. This does not mean you become suspicious. It means you become intentional. You can be kind to many and intimate with few. You can be generous without being exposed. You can be loving without being accessible at every level. You can be open-hearted without being open-doored. That is maturity. And as you build this new circle, remember that God may send people who do not look like what you expected. They may come from different backgrounds. They may not share your entire history. They may not be impressed by your old identity. They may not need you to perform. They may simply bring peace. And peace may feel unfamiliar at first. You may be used to intensity. You may be used to emotional highs and lows. You may be used to proving yourself. You may be used to relationships that require constant maintenance. So, when God sends peaceful people, do not reject them because they do not feel dramatic enough. Peace is not boring. Peace is safe. Peace is fertile soil. Your calling needs peace. Your nervous system needs peace. Your creativity needs peace. Your prayer life needs peace. Your confidence needs peace. Your obedience needs peace. You have spent enough years trying to grow in soil that kept poisoning your roots. Now God is giving you cleaner soil. Protect it. Protect your prayer life. Protect your vision, protect your joy, protect your emotional energy, protect your digital space, protect your testimony, protect the early stages of what God is forming. Not everyone needs to know, not everyone needs to comment. Not everyone needs to be invited, not everyone needs access. This is not secrecy from fear, this is privacy from wisdom. Because what is premature can be damaged by exposure. What is sacred can be contaminated by careless handling. What is still forming must be covered before it is displayed. That is why God is calling you into radical boundary setting. Boundaries over your time, boundaries over your attention, boundaries over your conversations, boundaries over your phone, boundaries over your social media, boundaries over your emotional labor, boundaries over who gets to speak into your decisions, boundaries over who gets to know your next move. This is not selfish, this is stewardship. You are stewarding the call. You are stewarding your obedience. You are stewarding your peace. You are stewarding the part of you that used to be too available to people who were not careful with your spirit. And as you steward well, God can trust you with more. More responsibility, more visibility, more influence, more wisdom, more assignment. Because He knows you will no longer hand sacred things to unsafe hands. Prayer of discernment, release and alignment. Now, before we close, let this become prayer. Not just information, not just motivation, not just a message you heard, but a spiritual turning point. Because some of you already know who this message is about. You already know the relationship. You already know the pattern. You already know the conversation that keeps draining you. You already know the person who makes you feel small. You already know the digital access that needs to be closed. You already know the guilt that has been controlling you. You already know the old version of yourself that keeps trying to pull you back. So let us pray. Lord, give me discernment without bitterness. Give me clarity without pride. Give me boundaries without cruelty. Give me love without self-abandonment. Open my eyes to see the difference between those who multiply my spirit, those who simply add to my life, and those who quietly subtract from what you are building in me. Show me the patterns I have ignored. Show me the voices I have allowed too close. Show me the relationships I have kept out of guilt, fear, history, or false loyalty. And give me the courage to obey what you reveal. Lord, heal the part of me that keeps calling dysfunction love. Heal the part of me that feels guilty for needing peace. Heal the part of me that thinks forgiveness means giving the same access again. Heal the part of me that has been loyal to old versions of myself. Heal the part of me that has been shrinking to keep others comfortable. I release the need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding my growth. I release the need to explain every boundary. I release the need to prove that my obedience is pure. I release the need to keep everyone comfortable at the cost of my calling. I release relationships that drain my faith, disturb my peace, and delay my obedience. I release silent envy. I release backhanded compliments. I release passive-aggressive prayers. I release emotional manipulation. I release crisis cycles that were never mine to carry. I release digital access that makes me shrink. I release every voice that made me question what you already confirmed. Lord, keep my heart clean. Do not let discernment become suspicion. Do not let disappointment become bitterness. Do not let betrayal become cruelty. Do not let my boundaries become revenge. Teach me how to leave gracefully. Teach me how to love from a distance. Teach me how to forgive without returning to bondage. Teach me how to bless without reopening doors you closed. And Lord, send the right people. Send destiny helpers. Send people who love truth. Send people who can celebrate without comparing. Send people who can correct without crushing. Send people who can pray without controlling. Send people who can walk with me in alignment, humility, wisdom, and peace. Send people who are not intimidated by the light you placed in me. Send people who are secure in their own assignment. Send people who help me hear you more clearly. But before you send them, make me ready for them, make me mature, make me faithful, make me humble, make me consistent, make me safe for the people you are sending. Teach me to be the friend, the partner, the builder, the helper, and the vessel that reflects your heart. I declare that I will no longer shrink to keep insecure people comfortable. I declare that I will no longer confuse access with love. I declare that I will no longer call spiritual exhaustion loyalty. I declare that I will no longer hand my calling to people who mishandle my spirit. I declare that my circle is being purified, my discernment is being sharpened, my peace is being restored, my voice is being strengthened, my heart is being healed, my assignment is being protected. And my next season will not be built on guilt, fear, or false loyalty. It will be built on obedience. It will be built on wisdom. It will be built on alignment. It will be built on God. In Jesus' name, amen. Final declaration. Chosen one, hear this before you go. You are not losing people. You are losing access points that were draining the oil from your life. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming consecrated. You are not being punished with loneliness. You are being prepared in incubation. You are not being arrogant. You are finally honoring the weight of what God placed inside you. Some people were only comfortable when your light was dim. Some people only knew how to love the version of you that needed them. Some people only supported your dream when it sounded far away. Some people only clapped when your breakthrough was theoretical. But now that God is raising you, your circle must be purified. And yes, it may hurt. Yes, it may feel quiet. Yes, you may grieve the familiar, but do not go back to what God exposed just because the wilderness feels lonely. Do not reopen doors that cost you your peace. Do not keep giving sacred access to people who treat your calling like a threat. Do not shrink to keep old relationships alive. Do not apologize for becoming who God called you to be. The audit is not punishment. The audit is preparation. The pruning is not rejection. The pruning is protection. The silence is not abandonment. The silence is incubation. And the separation is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your alignment. God is clearing the room because something weighty is coming. God is removing the noise because your next instruction requires clarity. God is exposing hidden envy because your next level cannot be contaminated by secret resentment. God is teaching you boundaries because the assignment ahead will require focus. God is making you harder to access because the oil on your life must be protected. So walk forward, quietly if you must, misunderstood if you must, with fewer people if you must. But walk forward clean, walk forward free, walk forward healed, walk forward discerning, walk forward without bitterness, walk forward without apology. Because when a chosen one finally audits their circle, they stop bleeding energy into relationships that were never assigned to their destiny. And once the wrong voices lose access, the voice of God becomes clear again.